Well, hello, and welcome to the Building Business Podcast, powered by the Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce. We're recording with our friends in the Charleston Radio Group Studios, who are, of course, a huge supporter of the Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce. Brian, we love being here with you. Thank you for everything. Kathy Herman here. I am your current president of the Chamber, and I am also the marketing director at Mount Pleasant Town Center. Thank you all so much for joining us, listeners. And I have a special co-host today, my friend, Mike Compton. Me. Mike Compton's back. Mike is president of Rumbo Advertising and the current marketing committee chair for the Mount Pleasant Chamber. Mike, thank you for coming back and hanging out with me again.
Of course. No problem. You know, I'm very, very excited about today's episode.
I am too. But before we get to our special guest, Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself.
You just did. You did a great job.
No, I did. Tell them.
Yeah, president, co-founder of Rumbo Advertising.
Right.
We find the soul in brands. We help brands find their soul. And then the marketing chair for the chamber.
Yeah.
Also, what am I doing? I'm incoming president at this point for the American Marketing Association.
Well, see, that's all. You just wanted me to skip over that.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That's
I'm
really
membership
big
director
stuff.
right now. We're having a good time. We also have a podcast, the Charleston Marketing Podcast.
Hey.
Anyways.
Focus on this podcast right now.
My bad.
Okay.
My bad. You left it open.
I know I did. Thank you for all that great information. But really, now I want to get to our very special guest because I am
excited.
so honored that he is here with us today. He is the president of the African American Settlement Historic Commission and is committed to preserving the African American history in Mount Pleasant. I am so excited to hear about all these special projects. Please welcome, really, John Wright. We are so excited that you're here with us
Ladies and gentlemen,
today.
the applause.
Yeah, here we go.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of this amazing podcast and this opportunity today. I think this is good for all of Mount Pleasant.
Yeah.
You know, that we share information about the great work that we're doing here in Mount Pleasant. So thank you both.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to start off, John. Just if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how you began your mission, and then we'll go into a lot of the other great things that you're doing. But just give us our listeners a little background about yourself.
A little bit about John Wright.
Yes.
That I have to call myself Johnny because growing up here in Mount Pleasant, I was Johnny. I came back home almost shy of 11 years ago, and I was using my real name, John Wright, and people here were baffled. They did not like it. They could not understand it. I had a coach that coached me as a kid playing Little League baseball here by the name of Billy Swales. Former mayor.
Former mayor, yes.
Former mayor. I spent many nights at Billy's house because I was always the best on the team, and he wanted to make sure I was at the game, so he'd make me spend the night at his house. But me and his son, little Billy, we grew up together. And so Billy hated the fact that I was using the name John. And anytime he talked to somebody, if they says John, he would say his name is Johnny, not John. So it's been tough being home almost 11 years, and trying to be somebody that my mom originally named me. My mom gave me the name John Fitzgerald, which I hated growing up because I thought, John Fitzgerald, why am I John Fitzgerald? But
That's a solid name.
Solid name. I came to realize that, right? And then so now I'm being back home 11 years later. Oftentimes you hear me. Some people refer to me as Johnny. Some people refer to me as John. But I'm Johnny from Mount Pleasant, born and raised here.
Okay.
Spent 29 years away from home, but 23 years, 8 months, and 13 days of those serving in the United States Army.
Oh,
retired.
Thank you for your service, John.
I'm a kid that grew up on Shem Creek. My stepdad had a shrimp boat.
Oh, what?
I love this.
On Shem Creek. So I grew up on Shem Creek, and my first job as probably about 7, 8 years old was heading shrimp in what is now the Mount Pleasant Seafood Market.
Oh, goodness.
That's where we would, that was the job growing up here, is to head shrimp from the shrimp boats that came in every day. And I was in there competing with women in their 40s and 50s, you know, to try to get 10 pounds of shrimp, you know, so I can get $50 for the week or what have you. But so I grew up on Shem Creek.
What year? How old are you doing that?
Oh, I was 6, 7 years old.
Come on.
8 years old. I mean, seriously. And the sad part about it is I asked someone that's related to the family that owns the business. I was like, I did not know that they were taking taxes out of me.
What?
At age 7 until later on in life. But yeah, at age 7.
Oh, come on. They weren't just giving you a couple dollar bills under the table?
Well, no, they would give you a brown envelope on Wednesdays, but it was taxed. Later on, when I get my Social Security, I'm looking and I'm like, I didn't have a job in '73, but evidently I did. So,
wow.
But it was amazing growing up there. The Shem Creek is the only swimming pool we had in Mount Pleasant.
Oh, okay.
The bridge was the only diving board, so that's what we would dive off the board as kids. And then originally my family is from the old village, but my mom in 1972 moved us to the Reynolds Point community, and when she did that. It was a little different because we went from living in the old village and the projects to now having a house that me and my brothers and sisters can live in. And so a couple of years after living in Reynolds Point, I started delivering the newspaper. Mm-hmm. And I delivered the newspaper to all 133 houses in that neighborhood.
What?
And so I did that for almost 5 years. And in doing it, at the time, I would collect $1.35 a week. For the 7 days of delivering the newspaper to the neighbors. And on Sunday mornings, all I wanted was my $1.35 when I knocked on that door. Uh-huh. But in that community was a lot of school teachers. And those teachers would often say to me, Johnny, do better than just deliver the paper. Read it. Get to know what's in it. And I had no interest in the newspaper. I only wanted that $1.35. Uh-huh. And then at some point, I started reading it. And
what was the paper?
It was then called not the Post and Courier, it's called the News and Courier, I believe.
Ah.
But.
And how old are you at this point?
Now at this point I'm 11, 12 years old.
Come on. What are you doing?
He's still working.
And so I'm reading the newspaper, and as I read the newspaper, then I find myself later in life realizing that it started my trend in world affairs, things that were going on in other cities and other states. And so as I traveled in the military, I find myself getting involved in cities and states where I had no right to be in their business. But because the newspaper I would read it, and then I kind of got involved, pretty much everywhere I went. So I think my upbringing here in Mount Pleasant, I think it's been one that has awarded me a chance to get some exposure and some experience away from home. But what I often tell people is I took my Southern charm and good looks on the road, and I brought it back. And I brought it back, a little more experience and a little more exposures.
A little worldly.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. What was your job in the military?
I was a combat engineer. So what we did was we blew up bridges and we built them. So I use that as my model to engage life, is I can build the bridge, but I can also destroy it. But it's easier to build bridges and close gaps is what I ultimately try to use that experience as a combat engineer in my daily model as how I operate with citizens and with others, is build bridges, close gaps.
That's pretty amazing.
Ooh.
I know.
We should just stop the interview right now.
That's it. We're good. That's amazing. So, like when you traveled in the service, John, I mean, is there certain places that what were those experiences like in that culture? Because you had such a strong culture growing up, obviously, and the love of that culture. Did that kind of make you the man you are today?
It really did. I think of all the places that I've been in my travels, spending 8 years in Europe was an eye opener because there was a whole different way of living for me. I missed 7-Eleven, and I missed the opportunity to go to a convenience store at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And then I realized that the things that we have here in America, they simply did not have in 86 and 87. Mm-hmm. But another city I think that had a really impact on my travels was Louisiana, when I was stationed in Louisiana. Just to realize that the level of, impoverished people that were still living in 1990,
right,
and the conditions in where they lived, but very humble, loving spirit people, and they were happy with their lifestyles. Mm-hmm. But I find them to be a little different, and I thought it would be different. But I think Louisiana, that culture, kind of reminded me so much of Charleston.
Okay.
And so I really, in that 2 years there, I learned to really enjoy the people and the culture. So when the hurricane hit, and they had the devastation, it was so important for me to go back and help out because, I knew the culture and the people there. So yeah, Louisiana I think had a huge impact on my travel.
They got great food. I mean, we think we
awesome
have good food
Let's
here,
not.
but-
I didn't want to mention that.
Oh,
because,
you can. That's okay.
Because I believe
we can't be number one in everything, you know.
Because I believe here in Charleston, Mount Pleasant, where I grew up at, we got the best food in the world.
Ah,
But
except for New Orleans. No, I love it. I'm
New Orleans
joking.
got some really good food.
You guys have
Well,
good
it also
food.
has soul too,
Right.
right? And
Absolutely.
that's what makes Mount
Absolutely.
Pleasant and Charleston so appealing and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm going to dig deep into your version of
That's
Mount
right.
Pleasant. You
That's
know, I've never met somebody that has so many generational like yourself. I meet every now and again. I meet somebody from Charleston. Every now and again, I'm from Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a Cumya. Right?
Okay.
Isn't that
Okay.
right? Am I doing that right?
That's
there?
right.
I mean,
You'll come, yeah. But let me give you a twist to that. Now, after 29 years away from home, when I came home, I was being told I was a come here.
No.
But you know, I told him, I said that's not acceptable.
How old were you when you? Right, that's not acceptable.
It's just not acceptable.
No. I was serving your country, helping you. Right.
Right. No, I'm a Benya. I just come
okay.
back. Yeah, but however you want to term that.
Can you follow your lineage at the International African Museum?
Absolutely, I can.
That's cool.
I can. I really can. And
Love to do
I
that.
think what's unique for me, growing up here, and I think in particular, and we'll talk about the settlement communities and how that terminology became now something that you're hearing more of, is that my grandfather and my grandmother were respectively from the Phillip community and the Hamlin community, both settlement communities.
Okay.
But then my grandfather moved all of us to the Old Village, another settlement community. Then my mom buys a house in Remmers Point, another settlement community. So uniquely for me, and tracing my roots back to the 1800s, I can literally go back to the 1800s, 1860s, and identify folks that right from my family here, right here in Mount Pleasant.
Yeah.
And that's why the Boone Hall opportunity was amazing, because it gave us an opportunity to celebrate current descendants of folks that may have lived and worked there.
I mean, that's a good transition
I was
into
gonna
what
say,
you're doing
sure.
today.
Well, before we even get to the schoolhouse, because
yeah.
I'm so excited about that. Let's talk about the Boone Hall, because we had Jim
exactly.
Westerhold on, who's the general manager of Boone Hall earlier in the year.
Who recommended you? And I was
Yeah,
right here at the time emailing you while he's here.
And the
talking.
things
Well,
that he
okay,
was
good.
saying about you, John, I mean, we're just like, oh, we got to get him on. But you helped him do something very special with it's the Gin House, correct?
Absolutely.
So tell our listeners about that.
Well, the Gin House at the time, when the Gin House was being renovated, I served on the Charleston County Historic Preservation Commission.
So you came home from the Army, right, from the
That's right.
military, and just jumped right in the community.
Embraced my community. I jumped. A little story about how much I wanted to embrace my community. I moved home in 2013.
Okay.
But in 2012, I did a walk from Mount Pleasant to Columbia to the State House. 4 days, 25 to 28 miles a day for 8 hours.
By yourself?
Me and about 20, 30 other people.
Awesome.
Each day they walked with me. I started from Moultrie Middle School on Friday,
Okay.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and got to the State House. And I did it to raise awareness of obesity. But what I ultimately did was I wanted to prepare to come home. So what I did was I came home in 2012, walked to Columbia, got Billy Swells and all those folks here in Mount Pleasant thinking Johnny's done lost his mind. And then to prepare for 2013, when I came home, all the great relationships I made in 2012 walk, to include several organizations were very instrumental. What's his name? I can't remember his name right now. It slips my mind, but he's big on obesity here locally, and he was Louis. There you go,
yeah.
Louis' kids.
Louis kids. Yeah.
Louis' kids. Louis
Right.
was instrumental because I planned this walk from Cincinnati, and I was in contact with him here in Mount Pleasant, in Charleston.
Okay.
So Louis was instrumental in helping me, making sure I got logistics and people there to help me walk each day. So here's a man I had never met before. Yeah. He too thought something was wrong with me, but in the end we met and I did the walk, and so it kind of helped me prepare for the move home,
Right.
because I started some relationships
Oh my God.
doing that 2012 walk. But
I would never have thought, okay, I'm going to move home and just walk from here.
Well,
I mean,
and
you can just stay home and shake hands and say hello to people.
And the irony of that walk and how it was established was for 4 years in Cincinnati. I walked from Cincinnati to Columbus, Ohio, to the State House, doing the exact same walk with a gentleman named Senator Eric Kearney. And Eric Kearney this was his walk.
Oh, I see.
And I told Eric, I said, Eric, I'm got to do that walk when I move home. I want to do it in my state. You know, I don't want to do it on hills and inclement weather. And, you know, I want to do it in my state. So Eric came down here in 2012 and walked with me on that Sunday.
That's awesome.
For 28 miles.
That's great.
Yeah, it turned out really well.
Takes a different type, man. It takes a different type to be doing stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, it was
perfect.
It was my way to come home and prepare to embrace my community.
I love it.
So it really became the ripple effect. I do this here in 2012, 2013. I move home,
right,
and then I just continue to find ways to get involved and to get engaged.
Okay.
And so
now we can go back to the gin house. Yeah, I'm done.
Right. And I was on the Charleston County Historic Preservation Commission, and Jim and I had already had a conversation before in relationships in the past when we had met and talked. And he comes into the county meeting, and there I am on the board, and he's like, wow, I didn't even know you were on this board. And I was like, yeah, I never talk about it. So the remodel of the gin house was happening. And so then I said, Jim, let's hear some things that I know our organization as a commission, we could help and make sure that this project gets approved. And so I worked with him through that, got the project approved. The gin house is an amazingly beautiful location. I mean, it is a beautiful,
awesome, beautifully
newly renovated, and so, you know, right now I think it's now used by all the visitors that go to the Boone Hall now. They all, you know, go through the gin house now.
Awesome.
Yeah. Great building, great project, and I think
I need to do it.
Yeah, definitely, you got to get by to see it.
Yeah.
And I think what really is a awesome relationship is they restored the gin house.
Jim was talking about that,
and we're restoring the school.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
And so the relationship is just absolutely.
I love it.
Wasn't there a special? I'm sorry, Mike. Wasn't there a special exhibit there too that you worked with him on?
Yes. Let's talk about that. I'd love to talk about that. And it was amazing because Rick Benthal, Jim Westerhold, Natalie, Katie, Sarah, all those guys at Boone Hall, I worked with them to plan what was the first ever, never done before, Black History Month program on Boone Hall Plantation for the entire month of February. And what was amazing about it was, number one, not only has it never been done before, the title of it was, Where Are We Now? Celebrating the Descendants. And when that title meant that I wanted to look at all the great things that we've accomplished since you know, the emancipation, and myself and all the guest speakers and everybody pretty much was involved were all from settlement communities, where these settlement communities were established right after the Reconstruction and during Reconstruction. And so the celebrating the descendants was something that typically in my almost 11 years home, I don't see Charleston doing. And I don't really see the Low Country do in general. So I thought it was a great opportunity for us to celebrate the descendants, talk about where we are now, those of us that have served in the military, those of us that have went on to achieve some great things. Major Abraham Turner was one of my guest speakers throughout that month. And Major Abraham Turner is from the Phillip community, but he's a major general, and the highway is now named after him.
Right, right, yep.
Highway 41 is named after him,
okay.
And he was the first post commander at Fort Jackson training post, and right here from our area.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think what we did in March with the support of Boone Hall Plantation was we celebrated Mount Pleasant in a way that it had never been celebrated before from a Black History Month standpoint. We had beautiful displays of the churches that were established. We had beautiful displays of the communities that were established. You know, so we hit on the military, you know, all those that served in the military dating back to, you know, the beginning of the Civil War and so on and so forth. So it was a great opportunity for us to showcase Mount Pleasant in a positive light. Not taking nothing away from Charleston, but Charleston cannot do what we did in February here in Mount Pleasant because they can showcase us in the way in which we did, because they have to stick to their story.
So that's still happening, right? The show is still happening.
No, it's not. We did it.
Special event. I'm hoping it's going to repeat itself.
Yes, it was done in February
for
Black History
Right
Month, and it was the first time ever done.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I
missed out.
I'd be remiss if I didn't say to both you guys, along with all the great compliments we got about doing that on Boone Hall Plantation during that month, there was also a few negative comments.
There's always.
Right? And
you can't make everybody happy, John. I try,
absolutely
but
right.
I can't.
But I was thrilled to answer them, and I was thrilled to jump right in and say, look, your question is legitimate, but let's rationalize why we're doing it on Boone Hall Plantation and what other place to do it. Damon Fordham, which one of the local professors, Damon and I grew up in the old village together, and Damon is a professor at the Citadel now. And Damon was one of our guest speakers during that month. And Damon and I both agree that, there was no better place to do this.
I agree.
To do it on Boone Hall Plantation. I did an interview with CNN, and the question was, why the plantation? Well, I said, why not?
Right.
What greater place? And what better way to
Goosebumps, listeners.
What better way to build our story as to how we've evolved?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I do hope, and hint, I do hope that this continues every February, or something like this continues every February.
That's right. I think what we did in February, we got a lot of attention and a lot of traction, and a lot of people were very excited about the way the month went. And our after action review with Boone Hall Plantation staff was, let's plan for 2025.
Fantastic.
Immediately.
Well,
you
tell Jim that you've got our support. We
That's
want it to come back in February.
Jim said the first thing we met for the after action review was, let's talk about 2025.
That's amazing. And I want the chamber to help in any way we can.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Very good.
So
good.
Don't be afraid to reach out to Kathy.
That's right.
I'm here for you, John.
And we are proud members of the chamber as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I do have a question. So I just want to make sure people are clear, especially for the kamyas. Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what you're called.
That's
too,
what I'm
maybe.
called too?
Yeah.
I've only been here 8 years, so I'm one here too.
Oh, yeah, Kathy. You definitely
I'll be one forever. But can you explain about the settlement communities, John?
Yes,
and like where I think I know a little bit, but obviously you know a lot more. And it's just explaining to people. You see signs driving down 41. You'll see Phillips.
Yeah.
A settlement.
Nice new signs.
What exactly are they? When did they start? What's the history of them?
Well, settlement communities are communities that were established right after Reconstruction, during Reconstruction. And most of them were established right around 1865, 1866, up to 1870. And they were communities that were established very close to proximity to where the plantation was. And these were communities that were the land that these communities you find them in is very unique because a lot of them are very close to the water. Mm-hmm. The land was at the time in 1860s when these communities were being established, those lands that they were able to buy at $10 a lot was really less than desirable land because of the close proximity to the water and the mosquitoes and things such as that. So those lands weren't less than desirable. And that's why they were sold and given, sold to them, not given, sold to them, at $10 for an acre and things such as that. Less than desirable land. But what became of that is the resources that the location gave to the residents of the settlement communities. They allowed them to fish. It allowed them to hunt. It allowed them to, all the food resources came because of the location and where they lived. So today, right here in Mount Pleasant, there's not even a 13 or 12-year-old that do not eat fish and shrimp.
Right.
Why? Because their grandmamas and granddaddies and everybody had this, that's been a staple here. So what became land that was less than desirable in the 1800s are not waterfront property today.
Nice.
And uniquely, those that purchased those properties way back then, they're now worth a whole lot of money now.
Yeah.
And so what ultimately I think started out as settlement communities where, were predominantly folks that were enslaved, moved in these communities, and they did all those things. They built schools, they built churches, they built all these things. So we displayed all that during Black History Month because every community had its own school.
Okay.
And so we displayed all that. But again, the settlement communities are unique because in 2012, when I came home, one of the things that I wanted to do, in particular, Kathy, was to change the narrative. Because when I came home, these communities were being termed and known. They were being termed as unincorporated and donut holes, and that's. I'd be in a county meeting, I'd be in a town meeting, and this is, that's an unincorporated donut hole area. And I'm like, wait a minute.
What does that even mean?
What does that mean? I said, that is so unfair because those communities give those communities their historic significance.
Yes,
right?
Of course.
And so I told them that they are settlement communities, and look them up. That's what they are. So we've got to change the narrative because if you don't, then the historic significance of those communities will be lost. And the term like unincorporated, a donut hole. So a long fight, now we are in 2016, Charleston County did a survey and they identified these communities as settlement communities, a 375-page survey, awesome survey. I think it was one of the things that made me very, very proud when I got back and being back home was that 2016 survey from a 2013 conversation that created these settlement communities to be what they are now. And so now today, in 2024, you hear the term settlement communities, and now we're embracing them.
Yeah.
Because we now know that communities that were less than desirable still exist. Oldest communities in Mount Pleasant.
Yeah.
So these communities predate waterworks.
Yeah. Exactly.
So before there was waterworks, there was these communities. So and not now in 2024, I'm thrilled and I'm delighted when I hear the word settlement.
Yeah.
Well, now I know how to. I make sure that I say that correctly.
Yeah.
And they're protected.
And some of them are, and some of them are not. And particularly in the case of Phillip communities is one of the first settlement communities that now has a historic designation, from historic places. So that's one, and then none of the others necessarily have them. But one of the things I think that's important for us as a Settlement Community Commission is that each of these communities are so unique and they're different.
Sure.
So what we ultimately hope to do is to create overlay zonings that would protect these communities because that's ultimately what's needed.
Yeah. Oh, it's not there right now. Then that's not in place at the moment.
There is some. There's some zoning, but there needs to be an overlay zoning that complements that particular community based on the way it was built and the way, because ultimately in most of the settlement communities, and you won't find that not necessarily in most of Mount Pleasant, that on settlement communities you find where they don't have parcels. We have acres in settlement communities. So what you'll find on an acre, you may find 5 family members living on that 1 acre of land. Well, that's unique. And so that's when I say overlay zoning, the zoning has to complement the lifestyle.
It's already there.
Yep. And that is what, again, we don't have parcels, we have acres. And that's kind of makes us very attractive. Yeah.
So I'm at Planters Point. Just moved there in 2019. That neighborhood was built in 2003, I think, something like that. There's so much crazy development going around the Phillips community. Love the fact you're fighting a fight. Who else would be doing it?
That's right.
The fact that you're taking it on your shoulders and in your heart,
that's right.
It's amazing. I'm on the side of I work from home, so the traffic doesn't bother me.
That's
right. And I don't want a 4-lane highway leading to my house. I like It took me a while. You know what it did? My story, real quick. Dr. Tanya Matthews. We interviewed her on the Charleston Marketing Podcast. But on the way to the interview, on the way here, I stopped at the International African American Museum because I'm like, I'm an idiot if I don't go to the museum and see her place before I talk to her.
That's right.
And I was blown away. And one of the videos I watched was about the Phillips community, and what is the term? Settlement
community.
Yeah, settlement communities, and their story about never selling the properties, like always holding on to the properties. That's what we have. You know what I mean? And it's listening and hearing, I'm like, well, shoot, I want to keep it the way it is. You know, I'm sold now. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to move and disrupt humans and lives and cultures, we can wait a few minutes. As far as I'm concerned.
Well, listen, I'm
in
over
traffic.
There. I'm over there too, you know, and
You
I
are.
do drive to work.
Yeah.
And I don't care about traffic. I care more about the community.
Well, it's because you're listening to our podcast when you're driving
Yeah.
to work. So
I'm
it's
listening
really,
to the Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce podcast.
Yes, called Building Business.
But it means a lot to me. I mean, when I moved down here, I wanted to make sure. One of the things I loved about the entire area was the history and the culture, and so I will never be one of those people that comes down and goes, you know, I need more McDonald's. I've fallen in love with this town because of what it has given me, and I am not.
Yeah.
I do not want it to be taken away from anyone who was here before me.
You know,
Absolutely. You know what's unique about what you both are saying, and you both are not, you know, new here,
right?
Essentially, is that you know, we live in a very beautiful place, and a place where millions of people, if they come to visit, they're going to find themselves wanting to live here because it's such a beautiful place to live. I told my wife and my daughter in 2011, I said, let's get planning to move back home because I want to go back to Mount Pleasant. It's safe. It's a beautiful place to live. It has changed a lot, and change can be good, right? It has changed a lot in my 29 years away. But what I don't want to see us lose is our character.
Right. Yeah. Character.
I think
charm,
character is important. That character and that charm and the beauty that we have here, that is what I don't want to see us lose. And because when you lose character, you lose everything.
Yeah.
And so, you know, these communities are so important to the character of Mount Pleasant. So that's what the fight is for, to keep the character, because you lose character, you lose everything.
Boy, they're very lucky to have you, John. I'll tell you that.
Well, I think the mayor is doing a good job being intentionally growing the town, which is really a city, the town of Mount Pleasant.
Thank you, Saint City.
Yeah,
I
mean,
that's right.
It's a
That's
town.
right. I say it all
do
the
the
time.
math. That's all.
I'm not going to be mad at you all the time because I often say I'll move back home to my new big city.
Yeah.
You know, it's no longer the town of Mount Pleasant because as a kid I can walk from. I played baseball. I'd have a baseball game at Mount Pleasant Academy.
Okay.
And then I would walk from Mount Pleasant Academy to Rimmers Point, where I lived, and that was through the old village and all the way, you know. So, but back then through the groves and back then it was such an easy walk.
There was no 17, right?
Yeah. We played football on middle of
That's
17 from
that's
time
what I've
to time.
heard. I've
So-
heard great stories
So yeah,
about that.
and you know, uniquely too is, growing up here, we did not have North Mount Pleasant. There was no such a term.
Right. It's the woods.
Mount Pleasant ended on Bowman Road. If you anything beyond Bowman Road, you were in the country. And so coming back home and hearing the term North Mount Pleasant, I'm like, where am I? I never in my life knew that we existed.
The funny part is the mayor will
Sorry.
tell you there is no such thing as North Mount Pleasant.
Uh-oh. I'll stop saying that.
No, we're all Mount Pleasant.
Mount Pleasant,
Okay.
yeah, one Mount Pleasant is a great concept, and I know that's something that they promote. And I'll have you both know that in 2016 and all the things I've been engaged in, one of the things I also took on was I wanted to change our local government
Okay.
here in Mount Pleasant from our current at-large system to districts. So I put on a pretty good fight to get the question on the ballot in 2016, and I did it primarily with a group of folks, and we got 8,600 signatures, but we needed 9,200 to get the question on the ballot. So we came like 600 signatures shy. But what I realized and what I found out about my beautiful hometown then was that in talking with people to get signatures, have them sign that ballot, was a lot of them thought that our community was already districts. They thought that we were large enough to be districts already, but we're an at-large system. So I understand the mayor's idea of the one Mount Pleasant, but it's we have a lot of newcomers here that don't know that our local government is an at-large system. So I think, you know, that was something that that I took on with a few people in
So
2016.
can you explain that at-large system? What is
Well,
that?
at large, what it means is that currently, where we have approximately almost 100,000 people here in Mount Pleasant.
Okay.
So 100,000 people vote for 9 council members, and they vote. It doesn't matter if you live in Carolina Park or if you live in
Old Village, Ion, right?
Oh, really?
Tupelo. It doesn't matter where you live. You vote for 9 council members that represent all of Mount Pleasant.
I see.
Right.
But in a district format, what you would have is you'd have 9 council members that would serve 9 different districts. So it puts you closer to the community and closer to the local government. So the breakdown was roughly about 10,000 people per district.
Okay.
So if you had a district representative on council, then I thought it would be far easier to approach your current issues in your community, whether it's traffic or whether it's development, and through your representative. But a lot of people did not want that, and I got a lot of kickback from a lot of the people that knew me from being a little kid. They said, "Johnny, what are you doing? You're coming home and you're causing problems.
Yeah.
We like it the way it is." And I'm like, "Well, me too," but I'm finding that we have a lot of newcomers and they don't understand our current makeup of local government.
Gotta change somehow, right?
So what I had a problem with is that we were only turning out about 9,000 to 10,000 people for elections. In some cases, 7,000. And so I knew that we did not have an equal voice. And primarily that 7,000 came from the south end of town. And so what I thought would be in the best interest of the town was to create a district format where we would have more voices, but then we have more people involved. So that was something I hope would have happened, and I'm always looking for the year that.
Will you try again?
Well, what I'm looking for now is I'm looking for our council to put the question on the ballot themselves. Because the goal behind it, those that were upset with me, as I told them, this wasn't about me. This was about the people deciding.
Sure.
I thought it was in the best interest of the people to decide how our government would be moving forward. But so a little confusion. I thought I was trying to come change things, but it wasn't. I wanted
a little
to change
change though to help.
I wanted people to get involved.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the right thing to do. And so what I'm hoping today is, along with the advocacy and all the other things I might be involved in, the day when our local council just puts that question on the ballot.
Well, why don't you become mayor to do that? Why don't
John
you?
for mayor.
Well,
you don't have enough going on right now, right?
Well, why don't I just keep a great relationship with the mayors and all those council guys and encourage them? You don't want me out there collecting signatures.
I want you out there making trouble.
Let's just put the question on the ballot.
You heard it here first, folks.
Right.
You did. And then I want to talk a little bit about your very special project, which was one of the first ways I heard about you, which is the Long Point Road Schoolhouse, 1904. John, I'm amazed. Like I said, I love history, and I've followed this and I've seen the pictures. For those of our listeners who have not heard about this amazing schoolhouse, please let them know how this project started and where we are with it.
It's the address where the school is located now. Its permanent location is 1578 Snowden Road. This school project was one that, as an organization, it was not on our radar. It was not something that we even envisioned we would ever be a part of. In 2017, Thomasina Stokes Marshall, then councilwoman, she was on council, the only black that ever served on council. When I first came home, Coach Swales, I call him Coach because he may be the mayor to some.
He's still my coach, right?
Coach Swales said, "Johnny, you need to meet Thomasina," and I had only been home 2 days. I said, "Well, Coach, can I unpack?" Yeah. He said, "No, you need to meet her immediately." Yes, so 4 days into being home, I met Thomasina Stokes Marshall, which evolved into a relationship. Her entire life, I literally was there to bury her when she passed away several years ago. And Thomasina Stokes Marshall was a very special woman. Born and raised here too, like me, but went to New York and spent her life there. So she served on council, and in 2017, Mark Roberts, one of the guys with Mount Pleasant Historic Commission, a staffer with Mount Pleasant, the town, told Thomasina about this building that was going to be demolished because someone had bought the property. And Mark Roberts found out that it at one point it served as a school. He didn't have the history on it, but he did know that at one point it served as a school. So he then called Thomasina Stokes Marshall because it's in the Snowden community where Thomasina is from. Well, come to find out, Thomasina went there for the first grade.
Come on.
So here we are in Mount Pleasant with a 1904 school that ended, it stopped serving the community in 1953 when equalization came about, and the only black to ever served on Mount Pleasant Council went there for the first grade. That's right. So she finds out about the school and she calls me immediately. It's like 6:15 in the morning, and she's like, "I've been waiting all night to call you. There is a school that we could potentially save," and I said, "Well, is that on our radar? Is that something is that a part of our mission statement?" And she was like, "Well, no, but Johnny, I think we need to get some information about this." So Thomasina started this ball rolling, and it was very exciting for me to be a part of it because I'll be honest, in my in this project is I've served my country in two capacities, two wars, and I thought those were big. Those were serving my country, and those wars were big. Yeah. This renovating the school project is probably one of the biggest things I've ever been a part of. Why? Because I never thought I would be a part of a restoration, preservation, in particular back here at home. So there is about 20 members of the Snowden community that is currently still alive that went to that school. The unique dynamics in October 13th of 2021, we moved that school 2 miles down the road, and it took about 2.5 hours to move it. Oh my gosh! Yeah. I coined that day as moving history.
Yes.
Okay.
How we identified the school to have historic significance is the College of Charleston students and Grant Gilmore did the first archaeology study. Not archaeology, architectural review. I'm sorry. Okay. They did an architectural review of the school. They identified that the school a lot of the material was from the 1800s. So we then knew that we had a museum. Yeah. So what those students' review did was validated that we had material from the 1800s that predated Brown versus Board of Education. It predated the Rosenwald system, and it was built and served during the height of the Jim Crow era. So that schoolhouse is very special to me, as well as it is to Mount Pleasant and our community, because we're now restoring that schoolhouse to become the Long Point Museum and Cultural Education.
I'd love that.
Sweet.
I can't wait.
So what does
that entail then? Yeah.
What we visualize, and I like, oftentimes I'm the visionary there, behind this stuff, because I've had the chance to do some other things and know what we could do. What we did in February on Boone Hall Plantation is exactly what we anticipate you will see for 365 days a year in that public use facility that we're creating. Okay. What we did in February was we displayed Mount Pleasant exclusively, the churches, the schools, the communities, the military. We did that in February on Boone Hall Plantation for 30 days. But it was just a way to segue into what we knew we were going to do with that school. When you open that door every day for a tour, you would see things relevant to Mount Pleasant exclusively. Mount Pleasant. And then the cultural education part, it gives us a chance to share, the stories about the communities and the students that would have went to that school and how it was formed. But more importantly, I think this project, the Save It and Restore It, our job in this has been to make sure that the integrity, the culture, the historic integrity of the building be saved, so that when the story is being told, it's being told from the perspective of how it used to be a school built in the 1800s by former slaves.
Right. So is it going, I love looking at things that are restored but look exactly like they did back in the day. I know it's so hard to do. Who are you working with on this restoration?
Well, this is one of my favorite subjects on when I talk about the restoration.
Well, then
project.
I asked a good question,
You
didn't
asked an
I?
awesome question because this project to me is so beautiful simply because there are two students, respectively 77 and 83 years old, that are the general contractors.
Come
on this project, and they both went to this school.
No, I can't.
They both went to this school. Henry Palmer has been building houses, brick houses in Mount Pleasant for over 40, 50 years. Well, Henry built the foundation under the school. Henry and Joe built the foundations under the school right now, currently as it stands.
Okay.
All brick. Both of these guys are the general contractors on the school, and they both attended the school. Yeah. Joe attended in the first grade. Henry did first through fifth.
Mm-hmm. Did you know that? Like you brought all these people together? Or
I knew that because Joe serves on our board.
Yeah.
And then I knew his brother Henry was a professional brick mason guy, because when I took a brick masonry in Wando High School, and he came out of school when I was a kid to kind of give us pointers about giving us opportunity to say, well, look, if you finish this course, you can come work for me.
Wow.
Very cool.
As a brick mason. So the idea that this project is being restored and preserved by those two gentlemen that went to the school, it means the world to this project. Why? Because they're restoring the school that they went to, so they know what it looks like.
That's a movie. What are we doing?
Yeah, I know,
Books
really.
Here? What are we doing here?
It is. It's an untold story that at some point I would love to see on TV somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, in a movie somewhere, because it's very rare that you would find a project like this. But more importantly, the people that are orchestrating and putting it together.
It's amazing.
Went to that school. So this is their love and their passion for this project. It's amazing. It makes it easy for me to advocate for it.
So talk about the radio show. Talking about a way for you to advocate, which is where you are now.
That's right. Yeah, some years ago, I started talking, and somehow or another, I was told I was pretty good at it.
You got a smooth voice. I'm not gonna lie to you. Brian, is he all right? Yeah, Brian says okay.
At some point,
up.
I started talking. I was told I was good. I was pretty good at it, and then I got a little bit in politics, and then I was told, oh yeah, you're really good at it now because you're a little versed, and so I'm now the host of the Jay Wright Show on Sunday mornings on WJNI 106.3, and I talk strictly social civics. One of my biggest things I promote is voting.
Perfect.
And participation.
Right.
Every Sunday morning on my show, I say the following words: no vote, no voice. And ultimately, it's my way to, I'm so excited about it because when I'm being back home and having the opportunity to do this in other cities, it's a big deal. But when you're back home and the people that know you and you that
all eyes on
that's been around all your life, and when you see them and they say, "Oh, I listen to you on Sunday mornings," it's a joy because it's like, you know me all my life. I'm Johnny to you, or I'm that kid that grew up here and that went away and then came back and now having these impacts. So the great thing about the show is the show gives me a chance to talk about that amazing 1904 school. Mm-hmm. It kind of gives me a chance to make sure people understand. Promote it and to advertise events and certain things that we're having. So on Sunday mornings, I make sure that if it's something special we're doing, that I get that in on my radio show, because that's the greatest way to make people aware of what we're doing is through formats like that and that platform. But I enjoy it. It's great to be back home and to have a radio show after 29 years away and to come back home, and now I can be seen in the community, but then heard on the radio on Sunday morning.
Very cool. 29 years away, and how long back? How long have you been back?
I've been back home now. August will be 11 years.
That's not a long time.
It has not been a long time. And
you've done a lot.
And, I tell you what, and I know we didn't mention this, but.
Mention it.
And I think, again, 2016 it was, during the Flint water crisis.
Okay.
You said you were from Detroit.
Yep.
I collected over 40,000 gallons of water in Mount Pleasant, where our headquarters for the African American Settlement Commission is at 440 Venning Street in the Old Village. I collected over 40,000 gallons of water and
walked it. You walked it. You walked it to Flint.
Negative. I had it driven. I with the support of the local ILA and some folks. I had the water transported out there on a
That's amazing.
on a 18-wheeler.
Okay.
But I flew out there to meet the water and to meet the mayor and to meet the folks in Flint, because I felt like what we were doing by collecting all that water over those 5 days here in Mount Pleasant. You know, I had already made contact with the folks in Flint and let them know what we were doing, because I knew a lot of them from when I lived in Cincinnati.
Oh, okay.
Right? So I had a relationship with them then. And so one of the ladies in Flint told me I was here at home. And she said, Johnny, you're in South Carolina now. Now that you're not in Cincinnati, you're not going to help us? I'm like, yeah, I guess I have to now, right?
Right.
So for 5 days, I staged a water drive, man,
Wow.
and we collected over 40,000 gallons of water. And,
That all?
and had that water taken out to Flint. I got out there, I met the mayor, and I met with the water officials out there and kind of understood their problem. But what was important about doing that was it was a way to temporarily assist them in their issue, which was a permanent issue. They got a permanent issue, and so all we did was temporarily took some water out there from Mount Pleasant. But it was just, you know, again, another way and opportunity for me to come back home, but then at the same time realize the value and the things that I can and have the ability to maneuver and help others.
What can't you do,
so
John?
that-
I'm trying to figure this out right now.
I was just going to ask the same.
What sport did you
something
play?
you don't love?
Well, you're not box, man. That was my thing.
Oh, I could see that. I could see that.
Look out now.
Yes.
So you know, I mean, I played baseball and basketball,
I'm on your
but
team.
yeah, but boxing was one of my things. I loved it. I mean, I was always told that, you know, my coach said, Johnny, you never seen a chin that lift weights, so that became my motto.
Well, you're so helpful to everybody else. What can we, as a chamber, as local businesses, or just listeners, do to help you?
Well, we are currently in this endeavor, and we are going to see this through, because we know that when this building becomes available for public use, we already have an amazing relationship with Boone Hall. Boone Hall has given us over $225,000 currently in this renovation, this restoration project. Why? Because Boone Hall is directly linked to the school.
Of course.
And if you go to the gin house, the newly beautifully renovated gin house, you'll find a picture of the 1904 school on the first floor. So it's on display every day. So the relationship is that once the school is renovated and we're ready and we open as a public use facility, the Museum and Cultural Education Center, Boone Hall will then transport people from Boone Hall to the school, because we're less than a mile away.
Wow.
Right.
And so not only will Boone Hall do that, but then we're also working closely with the African American Museum to have traffic brought to the school from there, as well as Charleston County School Districts. So we're making all this, all the right connections, because we're very proud to have a public use facility in Mount Pleasant. One of the things I've learned too in my 11 years here at Almost Home is that Mount Pleasant, we do a great job of preserving things in the old village. Houses, but we have not done a great job of preserving any public use structures. And so this gives us that chance to preserve a public use structure in Mount Pleasant that'll be good for the entire low country, the state of South Carolina, and the nation. We really believe that in the end, that's the kind of impact this will eventually have. And
how do our listeners donate, John?
So if you want to donate, if you want to make a donation, if you go to AASCHC, our website, there's a donate button, or just Google Long Point School, and there's a page there, a GoFundMe page there. So contributions are going to be critical. But let me make sure I also share with you that several months ago, I submitted a request to the state house through our district representative, Kathy Landon, in District 80, for fundings to finalize the school. Well, we was awarded $150,000 from the state house through the Ways and Means Committee.
Asking you shall not receive. Asking you shall receive.
To finalize it. So Kathy gave me a call. She is the district representative, and she gave me a call a couple weeks ago to tell me that we were awarded the $150,000 to complete the school. So we're excited now that we now have that additional funding to take us right on through the end of this project. It's been amazing because we spent essentially almost $60,000 just to move the school.
Okay.
Just to move it from
2 miles, right?
2 miles.
Could you imagine picking up a structure that was built in 1904 and trying to move?
Yeah, so that cost itself. A lot of people don't realize how expensive that was just to move itself. Yeah. So we got a lot invested in here, but we're going to see this project right on through, and with your help, the chamber, and we could move this right into finalization, and have something that we in Mount Pleasant can be very proud of.
Heck yeah.
Very proud of.
Absolutely. Well, before we let you go, John, let's talk about one more question for you because of your love for Mount Pleasant, right?
That's right. I love it.
Go ahead.
No, you want to go? Do you want to do yours
That's
first?
right.
Same?
I don't know.
I want to talk about the Pineapple Award.
I was going to just talk about. You go first.
I already did.
You already did?
Pineapple Award. Just yesterday, man, I got a phone call about. I got an email. Sorry. About the Black History Month event that we did on Boone Hall Plantation and how it was so well received.
Yeah, well, that event, was it a show? Was it a play? What was that event?
No, what it was it was a month-long self-guided tour of we had displays of the churches, the schools, military. So we had displays that you can literally go up and read and information dating from 1619 all the way to today about Mount Pleasant, significant points, things that happened. So it was on display the entire month. But on the weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays, I had a speaker series. So I brought in the speakers that are all from Mount Pleasant.
Perfect.
Lynette Love was a speaker. Lynette Love's son, Reggie Love, played basketball at Duke, won a national championship with Duke, and then went on to become President Obama's personal aide. Oh. She was a guest speaker. Lorna Bell Coakley, which created and started the Declaration Day at Hampton Park. She was a guest speaker. So we had all guest speakers that were all from Mount Pleasant. So the displays were all self-guided tours. So none of us had to be there for you to become familiar with Mount Pleasant, but on the weekends when we were there, it gave us a chance to interact, and so it went extremely well. So as a result of that, the Charleston Visitors Bureau, and also along with that, during that month, I planned with Charleston Visitors Bureau to have somebody from our organization at the Visitor Center every Friday.
Oh, good.
From noon to 4 to promote what we were doing on the weekends. So from noon to 4 every Friday during the month of February, 2 representatives from our organization was there to greet the people and to give them information about what we were doing on the weekends. So that worked out really well. So as a result of that, I got an email yesterday that I won a Pineapple.
Yay.
So what does that mean?
It's a big award.
Well, I don't know anything about it. I mean, you probably know more than I do.
I go every year to the luncheon.
Oh, really? Okay, good. So there's been people that are pineapples.
Yeah, very important people.
So I have a really.
Yeah, the pineapple is it's the obviously the symbol of hospitality.
Okay.
And a huge symbol of Charleston, of course.
That's right.
And so you should be honored. It's
Well,
a very important award.
Well, Kathy, I'm looking forward. I mean, I'm really looking forward to it now.
Yeah, it's awesome. And of course, Explore Charleston for those. It's the Charleston Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. It's a huge organization that we do a lot with too, with the chamber and things. So I'm excited for you.
Yeah, thank you.
So well deserved.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to getting that award. I think when I got the email yesterday, I was like, wow, I said, it's another way to validate that what we did in February. Yeah. Really,
it's amazing. Sorry. I got one more.
Okay, one more.
Geechee Gullah.
Geechee Gullah, wow, unique term. Very unique term. Why? Is because growing up here, born and raised here, I've always known us to be Gullah. Geechee is a new terminology.
Okay.
I think it resonated somewhere like in the Beaufort area, Sea Island area. Okay. But it's never been a term that I've always been accustomed to. But it is something that I hear all the time now, Gullah Geechee.
Yeah.
Gullah has always been associated with Charlestonians and folks from Mount Pleasant. Okay. And it's simply our dialect, the language. Mm-hmm. In some cases, even the food. But the Geechee part, I think, is new. But
what does that mean? What does Geechee mean then?
Well, I think what I believe, as I've talked to some folks, and I've even had this question posed on a radio show, was what is Geechee? And I think it's a people. I think it's a culture more than it is the people. The Geechee is a culture.
Okay.
And Gullah is the people?
Gullah is the people.
Copy.
You know what
Right,
I mean?
because Geechee grits, right? That's
Right,
yeah.
that's right.
Okay, because they're not
Geechee,
Gullah
yeah.
grits; they're Geechee grits.
Right.
Grits.
So yeah, I think when they refer to Geechee, I think it's more of a culture
Okay.
than it is the people. But the Gullah is the people.
Of Charleston.
And absolutely,
Specifically.
So Gullah can be any color. You could talk to a person from Mount Pleasant that's been around for a long time, and you say, "Oh, well, you're not black, but you're Gullah. You speak Gullah." And
Right.
So Gullah is
Speak Gullah.
Oh yeah,
That's right.
we had
that's a whole language in itself.
we had a gentleman, well, two of them actually, but one of them just retired. So one of our maintenance gentlemen at Mount Pleasant Town Center, he worked for us for the 25 years we've been open, and he was born and raised here. And the first thing I always said was he wore a winter coat in like April because he was cold.
Okay.
Yeah, while we're all in tank tops and stuff, and
Yeah.
because they're so used to the sun, right? But he spoke Gullah, and boy, did we have some really interesting conversations. It was such a joy to listen to speak to him because it took a little understanding. Don't get me
That's
wrong,
right. Absolutely.
but it was, and then he and an associate Frank, they both worked at Town Center. You should have heard them going back and forth, and if you didn't know who they were, you'd be like,
That's
what
right.
are they speaking?
You-
But I loved listening to them talk.
Uniquely, in all my travels, everywhere I've ever been in my life, if there was somebody from Charleston that was speaking and they were across the room, as soon as they opened their mouth, my ears, my antennas went up. I'm like, I know that person. They're from my hometown because the language is so unique.
Right.
And I often, in my travels, I would tell people that I speak three languages. You know, I speak German, and then I can speak broken English, and then I speak Gullah. So you know, Gullah is a language, and then so my wife is from Boston, and she would always tell me, she says, you think you speak so intellectual from time to time, and then you get around your friends.
I would love to be a fly on the wall for those conversations.
She said, and then you get around your friends, and I think, who is that Johnny? That's not.
Hey, whatever. You be you, Johnny, right? You're
That's
doing
right.
something right.
That's
man.
right.
Thank you for all of it.
Yeah, I
Thank
think that's
you.
amazing. And
Heck yeah.
I mean, Mount Pleasant, I just want to talk about Mount Pleasant one more time because
let's
this is
do
so
it.
special to you. What do you think that makes Mount Pleasant so special? Not just to us who live here and people who visit,
Yep.
but the world. People
Yep.
love coming here.
I think Mount Pleasant is special because geographically where we're located. I often, when I do a radio show in Cincinnati, somewhere else, I often say that I'm calling from the bottom of America. And, I think geographically where we live is such a beautiful place. We have the great food. I mean, great. I came home to eat fish and shrimp, man. There's great food. So we got great food. We got a great atmosphere. The climate here is just amazing. You can't get this anywhere else in the world in some cases. And so, we 10 months almost, warm weather.
Right.
This is the perfect place to live. But again, I embrace everybody that wants to live here. I'm not one of those that feel like, hey, this is my hometown and I don't want nobody else to come here. No, not at all. I embrace everybody. I like diversity. I like to see. If this place wasn't so special, then people would not want to come here.
Yep.
So what we have to do with those of us that are from here is to make them comfortable while they're here. Make them understand we don't want you to take over, but we want you to be here.
Yeah.
We want to comfortably live together. But Mount Pleasant is such a beautiful place. It's like no other place I've ever been in my life. And
Comfortably live together. I like that.
yeah,
That's
and
another good tagline. We got to start writing some of this stuff down while we're talking.
yeah, I mean, because literally, I mean, we have to. That's the new way of Mount Pleasant.
Right.
So I love being back home. I love the weather. I love the food. I love the camaraderie. I love that custom that I can get a chance to be myself. But Mount Pleasant is a place that I think is extremely special. I said years ago that Mount Pleasant has is Hollywood without the lights,
Okay.
the glamour and the glory. It's not any of that.
Interesting.
But it's a great place where people live and are raised by communities, and so it's just where everything that Hollywood is not.
I love
amazing.
that. I love that. Danny McBride lives here now. Bill Murray's been here for a while. Like Danny McBride brought his whole crew here.
That's right.
It's the livability here is amazing.
That's right.
That's amazing.
Right. That's right.
Well, we're honored to have you as back in your hometown. I mean, obviously, because of all these amazing things that you're doing.
Yeah.
I want everybody listening to this podcast to go say the website again one more time, John.
AASCHC.com or Google Long Point 1904 Long Point School.
I want all of them. I want the dollars raised after listening to this podcast because I want you all to go and look at what they're doing, the history of this school and all the renovation and just how amazing it's going to be for us who live here and work here in Mount Pleasant. And thank you for your service again, for everything that you've done for this town. And I'm kind of lucky that I know you, so I'm really excited about
Well, I'm lucky now too. I know him now too. I know that.
That's right.
That's
What's
awesome.
your radio show again?
WJNI 106.3 is the Jay Wright Show, and it's every Sunday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. And I'm talking social civics. And if it happens here or anywhere around the world, I might talk.
Start listening, everybody. Thank you so much, John. Before we leave, we need to thank our sponsors, of course, Charleston Radio Group and our friend Brian Cleary here, and the Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce. If you want to be a sponsor of our podcast or be a guest on our show, just feel free to reach out to us. Make sure you follow and download. Let's see, right? I'm going to get them right, Mike. Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Sure.
Okay, sounds fantastic. We're so excited. Thank you for being with us today. Until next time, Mount Pleasant. Until next time, listeners.